La mula no era arisca, pero la hicieron. La niña no era feminista, pero aquí nos vemos. Compas creemos, machitos no sabemos, porque es normal que los lobos vistan piel de cordero. Y es que hay que ver quién critica bajo qué normas. Si soy yo la que está mal o eres tú quien se conforma. Si no quieres saber nada de mí por mi pensar, si es más fácil desde tu privilegio juzgar mi andar. ¿Y qué más da? Una asesinada más. Si seguro mi protesta es para quitar.
Welcome. Welcome everybody to the 6th Decolonial Learning Session that we are organizing as Aralez, a pan-decolonial organization, foundation, community work, coalition work group. We're very happy to have you here today with us. A technical note, we will be recording this session, so feel free to keep yourself without camera if you feel like being here anonymous today. We're so happy to have you with us. Today is the first time that we are hosting an international speaker. We're so pleased to have with us Rosa Marina Flores Cruz from Mexico, or Oaxaca, Juchitán to be more precise, community organizer now in Campeche. And we will be exploring the theme of energy sovereignty and how that's tied to land rights and indigenous struggle and unmasking green capitalism. And finally, we'll explore a little bit about solidarity practices and what helps us sustain in the movement. So with that said and done, I'll be your moderator. I'll be interviewing Rosa. I would love to invite you to join me, Rosa. And I will start with some introduction questions. So we'll learn a little bit about who you are, and then we'll dive into the topic of energy sovereignty. So, Rosa?
Yes.
Hi. So maybe you can start by sharing something about how you became an activist. Like, I met you in 2017 and I met your family. I think they had something to do with it, but it would be very lovely to hear, like, how did you become who you are in terms of community organizer?
Yeah. Well, I think I just born in this world. From my mom and my grandma, she was like, she was part of a big indigenous movement in my region in the 70s, I think. In my town, the indigenous people just get joined to fight against like the people who was grabbing the lands and who was like controlling everything, the power, the politics, everything. And they were not from the community, so the people just get organized to take the community back to them. And my grandma was there from the beginning. She was one of the founders of that movement. And my mom, she grew up in that space, that really political space. So all her life, she was part of these dynamics about speak out the injustice, the justice, and speak out about it was happening with their own land. And also my dad, he is part like of this strong educators movement in my state, in Oaxaca. He's a teacher and he's part of the movement. And also, well, he's been a teacher since I born. So I always see them both, my dad and my mom, like fighting and talking about what was
Fighting
wrong.
for justice, not
about injustice. Yes. So yeah, I think for me and my sister was just the natural thing. And for us also was, for my mom and my dad, was really important for us to know where we come from. So they always talk us about well, how different it is for us to born in a community, an indigenous community, and also that we have family. Well, my dad, he's from afro-Indigenous, well, Afro-descendant communities in another state of Mexico. So that was always also part of our identity and about what we were. So yeah, it was natural. When I study environmental science, and when I come back to my hometown against, I finished my studies, was like, well, if I have this degree, this study, this knowledge, I need to use it for something, and that something is my own, well, my own land, my own people. And also in that time, start this boom, I don't know, this massive interest about the isthmus start with the windmills and the energy projects. So it was like automatic. Yeah, I know I'm starting to talk about another topic.
We'll have to explain that a little bit.
But
maybe
that's the thing.
Maybe we locate this particular struggle, because you are from a particular place in Oaxaca, in Juchitán, original territory of Zapotec. And I don't know in which year, I think around 2006 or something already, there started being invasion of a mega project in the area. And so when we talk about the Istmo, we talk about this whole area around it, where this mega project of windmill farming was taking place. Would you be able to give a little bit of recap of how that all started and how you came to be involved?
Yeah. I don't know if just have the pictures, just to there was a map, like to have the location, to explain you where is the Istmo. Well, if you imagine Mexico have like a, how is cintura, have a wrist, like this small part. Yeah, like
get thin.
Like, yeah, it's thin. It gets really thin. That's the isthmus. There are two states in that part, Veracruz and Oaxaca. And there's a lot of indigenous territories in that place. Just in Oaxaca, we live like, we are 5 different ethnicities, 5 different groups in the region. And in Veracruz, there are like 3 more, I think. So, well, it's I don't know, it's strange that now when we talk about the isthmus, we need to talk about the windmills, because at the beginning, when we talk about the isthmus, we just talk about, well, the people, the indigenous people who live there, how the diversity is really clear and brings like a lot of things to the territory. before of the coming of these projects, the Isthmus was a land with really strong winds. So this wind make us to have a really special corn that is really small. So the wind just make him like blow with it. The wind doesn't break it. But now, well, I think like 2006, they start all this interest. They start to talk about, well, the environmental crisis is coming, and we need to do something, and Mexico needs to do something about it. So they made like all these studies, and they know that in the Isthmus, the wind was really, really strong, but really strong. It's like a really different place from other parts of the world. So they start to, like transnationals, enterprises?
Corporations, enterprises.
Corporations, transnational corporations start to put their eyes in the Isthmus. So they start like parting the Isthmus and deciding, oh, this part is going to be for me, this part is going to be for me, this part is going to be for me. Now we have like 30,000 hectares of land with private windmill projects. There are like 29 projects working, and they are producing energy for Walmart, for mining, for lots of other corporations, and not for the communities. So
yeah, that was going to be a question, like who is actually benefiting? Who are the capital forces behind this?
Yeah, the communities, they just saw us like, well, you have the lands, so you can have a little bit of money for that lands, but we are going to put everything. The technology is ours. The projects are ours, and the energy is for other people. So also there's a lot of people in the Isthmus and in all Mexico that is, they don't have energy power, but we are producing a lot of energy, like solar, wind and from fossil fuels also. So all these contradictions start to boil a lot in the Isthmus, and that's that's when I well, my mom, my family, she started like to go into the communities at the beginning, because she was doing a PhD that she never finished, but she was doing this PhD, and she started to talk with the people and asking them, oh, do you have information about this? Do you know what kind of contract do you sign? Do you know what is happening here? And the people start to say, no, we don't have any idea. They just come and they send us, oh, you're gonna be rich now. This is how it's going to be. So you can agree with it or just continue being poor. That was like the vision. So a lot of people, a lot of the communities start to say, well, what we can do to change this or to face this situation. And that's how it burns the indigenous, the Assembly of Indigenous Peoples in the Isthmus in defense of the land and the territory. And
maybe a little bit, because I was fortunate enough to be with your family in 2017 and visit the Windmill Farms. So it's really a large stretch of land. And I saw some of the harm also, but you also talked to like, what is the harm to the land, or what is the harm to the community that it brought? Because most people in climate movement, they only hear about windmills as a solution, and we don't talk much about the green capitalism of it.
We always say that the problem with windmills and solar energy is not about technology. We don't think that the technology is bad for like a definition of bad things. We think that the indigenous people, if we have the land, we also need to have the I don't know how to say it in English, but this right about this right to decide about what is happening with our lands. So the technology also can be useful for us, for our own ways of life, you know? So the problem here in the Isthmus is that there are too many. There are almost 2,000 of windmills in 30,000 of hectares. It's difficult to, it's something that you must to watch. And so now, like almost 15 years after the first windmill was built in the territory, there's a lot of things. There is the ground levels change, so there are lands that get totally flooded in some times, and there's a lot of there's also they use like this really bad technology. So the windmills are always like, how is they
Sinking?
have oil. No, they are always
Leaking. They're leaking oil. I've seen that. You've shown me pictures.
And well,
and I think a common thing people don't know is that windmills are not lasting. They only last for around 30 years or something, and often need to be replaced, or like the blades, or even the way they are tied to extractive industry of mining, like copper mining, neodymium mining.
If you look for the change, it's a really big change, and all these windmills, they are not going. They are they doesn't. How is no son fabricadas? They don't build them in Mexico.
They're not built to last. Yeah.
So I don't know. There's a lot of things. Also, now we have like this strong electric storms. We never have them before. It's really strange.
What is an electric storm?
Yeah, just last month, one of the windmills exploded because of one of these things. So it's something that is happening now. And we don't have information about what other kind of impacts all these things it will be bringing to us. So
I think another thing you showed me when I was with you was how, and there's also something, if you look at the windmill, it's not just the thing that is above ground, but all of the concrete, all of the layers of earth that it has to destroy. If you think that these were once ejidos, like common lands, or once farmers' land, then it has to destroy so many layers of soil for putting that concrete into the ground, which is huge.
Yeah, they are really deep. They are going to really deep because they need to have like a strong basis, because the wind is it's a crazy thing there. The trucks get just turned for the wind, and sometimes the houses is crazy, the wind in some periods of the year. So also the technology, it was not how good for that kind of wind, you know. They was like just saw an opportunity and was like, oh, we are going to be there and see what happens.
And so there are issues to raise around the way that technology was applied, the way it destroyed the land, the way it is built on mining and extraction again.
Yeah.
But there's also a very elemental indigenous rights against what I've heard a lot in Mexico, despojo, displacement, dispossession. Can you say something about the challenges you faced when that resistance actually started?
Yeah, well, there are a lot still now. Because of this, well, in Mexico we have this social, possession of the land. Like this, after the revolution, the lands were like a little bit, well, the government gives some lands to the indigenous and peasants communities, so they can manage the land like in collectivity. But also after that there are a lot of public politics that tries to break down these collective rights over the land. So in Juchitán, in my hometown, we have 9 of these mega projects, of these projects of windmills, 9 or 10, I think. I'm not sure. And yeah, the other 20 are like in the other communities. So they use they take an advantage about we didn't have like this collective authority about the land. There was a lot of public politics and different actors in the politics that grab already the lands and have like this concentration of lands for them. So they were the ones who were more happy to have these projects coming to our territory, because for them was like easy money. They didn't work the lands. They just was grabbing them. So they have a lot of interest about this. They have now they are having money with doing nothing, you know. But the small peasants, the people who have just 1 hectare or 2 hectares to grow milpa, to grow corn, well, for them is big. One of the windmills, they need 1 hectare to put them and to make like this big bases. And they need to close the place.
So like fences.
Yeah, to have to give management to the windmill. So if you have 1 hectare and you rent the half of them to the project, well, you just have a little bit of money at the end of the year. But if you have, I don't know, 20, 30, even more, hundreds of hectares of land, well, for you it's really easy to say, oh yeah, just take my land and give me money. So when some communities stand against this situation and say, well, maybe we don't have a lot of lands because you already grab it from us, but we live here and our life it depends about the sea. It depends about what we what we grow in the crop in the lands, and it depends about the forest, and it depends about everything. So we want to say no. We want to say that we don't want this kind of model of energy, even if it is renewable energy. So you start to be not just against corporations, you start to be probably against your sister who is working to the corporation, or your uncle who have more lands than you and he's really happy with the money they have, or against the municipal authority. You know, they have a lot of power, and also they start to have all this help about organized crime. So the things start to be really, really difficult. The Narcos start to give them protection to the corporations.
So maybe we need to explain that for a second, because Narcos is very well known in Mexico, but not everywhere. So for people who are joining us, could you explain, like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's like, well, it's the organized crime, these people who move the drugs from one place to another place. They need to use the isthmus like a transition route. So they are based in the isthmus. So they need to have money from some places. One of them is the move of the drug, and the other money they have is in the construction of the windmills. They have all the concessions for the construction of the windmills, and also they have the protection to the corporations. They are the ones.
That is something very crucial, because maybe when people hear Narcos and they connected with narcotic and drug trade, they know about the violence within that sector, but it's in Mexico, corporations hire these thugs to intimidate or to do their security work. And it's connected with corporations, it's connected with politics, it's connected throughout society. Even if you're not have anything to do with drugs yourself, they may come for you to ask, you to pay money for protection or otherwise cause trouble, and that kind of extortion. I think that's important to know about the context.
Yeah, so yeah, that makes everything difficult, you know.
How do you organize the situation? Because you organize, you don't give up. Like many people might, be intimidated by all that. It is very intimidating. But you come from a family of people who persevere and who organize and who are part of the community. Can you tell a little bit about what the resistance looked like? How did you organize with
how
people?
the resistance looked like? Well, the resistance looked like I don't know. For me, why I believe in this? I believe in this because it means everything for not for me like an individual, like Marina, just there. It means for me everything about my relation with my grandma, who is not longer here now, and it's my relation with the woman who sell food in the market, and it's everything about what I eat, what I know that is good for my body, and it's about food is about the celebrations. For us, the celebrations are really important, and we always, the people is always helping each other to make a party bigger and bigger. So if you have strong relations with your community, you can have like a big, really big party. It's strange, but and for us that is the fight, that is the struggle, the struggle is to keep those things that maybe for the people from outside or from all these people who is bringing these projects are just things that you need to take a picture and make a postal about it, you know? But for us is our everyday. For the people who is going to the land to crop the corn to I don't know, it's everything. And I think that's something that my family, my mom, my dad, and everyone back there, it's always remembering me that I need to be proud of that, and that we know that without that is not, I don't know how to say it. It's not just that you just see, you just can see with your eyes. You need to feel it, and we feel it when we are in community and when we are together. And this kind of projects just bring division in all this, and they bring individualities. They bring this ambition about money and not about what you really need for your life. So when I go, well, now I'm working really far from my homeland, but when I go to my town, I listen to the people, and I listen how they are happy with just to have some tortillas and just to have it's not about poverty, you know, it's about to be proud
Dignity.
of you. Yeah, it's about dignity.
I hear the voice of your mom. She talks about dignity. You really get it.
Yeah.
I see here there's a question in the chat.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
About what is the role of the Netherlands in the establishment of windmill farms in Oaxaca? How big is their role in this mega project, and are they still active?
Yeah, well,
question.
it's a really interesting case because the Netherlands, there was the PGGM, I don't know, PGGM, it was a Fondo de Pensiones. Do you know how you say that in English?
Pension fund.
Yeah, a pension fund. I think from Netherlands, they was putting money in one specific project. Mareña Renovables was the name. If you, I can
Google it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of information about that case. Was one of the strongest one, and they were trying to put these 132 windmills and 6 like seaports, like in a small bar of sand that is really important for the fishermen from a lot of communities and for some rituals. So at the beginning was a really concern, but the people was like, oh no, this is not going to happen. And they are saying that they are coming, but the authorities, the municipal authorities, they give like the permission, even though the land community, the land authorities, they didn't give it, just like the municipal. So one time they were trying to start to build with the building of the project. So they stopped the pass to 5 fishermen, and they say them that no, you are not going to be able to cross now here. You need to ask for permission because we are starting to build the project. So the people get really, really angry, and they take like the maquinaria, the trucks.
Yeah.
They take the trucks, they take everything, and they take corrieron.
They ran with it?
Yeah, no, the people who was building just have to run away from the place because they really scared. And after that, the people in another communities, because this case was really important because involved a lot of communities, like 5 or 6, not just one. And in the communities where the municipal authority give the permission, they take the municipal authority and make him to turn to rape. No, how is when you a shape a paper? They make to
Rip it.
rip the contract they have with the corporation. So they put a lot of barricades in the place to watch the pass, and there were a lot of other kind of manifestations. And there were a group, I didn't know what group was, but they were a group in Netherlands who start to bring all this information about how PGGM was involved in this case and how they were like grabbing this important ritual and productive lands for indigenous people. So PGGM just take off their investment to this project. This project was stopped in that place, but they just take it and put it in another place. Now it's built and now it's working, but without PGGM money. They have Mitsubishi money from Japan and from another places, but that was the case with Netherlands and the windmills in specific.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, and I know here in the Netherlands, I first learned about Hujidan from an academic, Alexander Dunlap. He has given a couple of talks in university spaces, but also activist spaces about this colonialism in the area. So that's the only person I know in the Netherlands that has really exposed it.
Yeah, I think he wrote some articles about it, and he was there in that time. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to ask 3 more questions, and I hope that there will be some more questions from the participants because it will get more interactive that way. So do please feel free to put your questions in the chat. So I have a question about energy transition. You know, we know this is not the way. This is just doing the same old thing of dispossession, putting some green paint on it, but not changing the way that we live with the land, we respect the people. And so I want to talk a little bit about how we imagine a real and a just power and energy transition. I'd love to hear your thoughts. In particular, I wrote down this question: in what way does the communal land, the ejido system of Mexico, also inform perspectives and processes around land and energy for common good? Like, what can we learn from that? Because in the Netherlands, we don't have a translation for ejido, like this common held land, in which you work and decide together, which is already a community making practice, I guess. I'm very curious to learn your perspective.
Well, there are like two different things. No, with the ejidos, it's really curious. Well, we have two kinds of social property of the land: ejidos and communities, comunidades, and they start after the revolution. And basically, it depends about the communities or the comunidades, bienes comunales. They were given to the communities who have like some paper from the first I can't say it, from the Spanish, from the Spanish people, the Spanish people who came to Mexico.
The conquistadores?
The conquistadores. So when they came, they give some communities like a paper and say, oh, we
decide you can have your own little piece of land while we take the rest.
These lands are yours, and it's okay with us. Give your paper. So after the revolution, if you have that paper, you were named community. But if you wasn't have that paper, the government give you lands. And so, oh, we have these lands that some person was grabbing. So we are taking off from a church or from a person these lands, and we are giving to you because you are working the land and you deserve to have lands. That was like the Zapatistas claim in that time. And so that's how the ejidos born. So we have in Oaxaca, in my state, there are more comunales, bienes comunales than ejidos. But here in Yucatan, for example, there are only ejidos. And it's really curious because here there are communities that have more than 500 of years, but they don't have this paper that say, oh, the Spanish people say to us that it's okay for us to have lands. So, so the thing with the land in Mexico, it's like that. The government give you like the property, and the government give you permission to have lands. For some communities, it works really fine, and it works in a fantastic way. But in another communities, it's really difficult because there's a lot of interest over the lands. So the authorities, the agrarian authorities, the ejidales authorities, or the communal authorities are always like under pressure. And some of them will just accept some things with or without the support of the assembly, because the first thing about the collective lands is they have this assembly, big assembly that bring together all the people who have lands, and they have to take decisions together. But in some ejidos, mostly in the ejidos, the authorities, they just make like fake acts, fake
contracts.
Yeah, fake contracts to give the lands to corporations. So it's a complicated situation. Still, we have a better situation than other places in Latin America, who just have private possession, and they don't have like these collective ways to take decisions. No? But about energy transition, well, one of the difficulties I think is that the collective ways of management of the land are not securing. They are not giving security to the land to be managed in a collective way, and that's fault of the government. The government is doing all these politic publics to break down the collective way. So, because it's easier to go and talk with one person and
divide and rule.
yeah. So, well, now I'm here in Yucatan. I'm working.
What do you do in Yucatan?
Yeah, in Yucatan.
What do you do there? Like, as you work as a climate justice, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm working with an organization who is trying to make this proposal about how renewable energy, communitarian renewable energy must be. So we are trying to go with communities who needs energy for something specifically, and they are like dealing with the high prices of power, and that make them more complicated to product, I don't know, food or anything they are producing, and to try to put, to propose to this kind of energy projects, mostly photovoltaic, because I don't know that the windmills are really aggressive, I think, and the people are a little bit afraid about them. And so also, but there's a lot of things, because the laws in Mexico, they doesn't allow to communities to generate energy. The only ones who can, the only one who can generate energy in a strictly way is the National Commission of Electricity. But then they do this with the private corporations to generate renewable energy in the 2006. That was the way when all these windmills came to Oaxaca. But now they changed that. So there is, like, the privates, they have capacity. If you have like some kind of corporative power, you can generate energy. But if you are you have like a proposal about generate a small amount of energy, and to use like the networks, the national networks of electricity, to put the energy there, and to talk with the National Commission to say, well, I'm generating this energy, this power, so how we can you give it to us, or can you give it to another community and pay us for generate this energy? Well, the National Commission is not having that conversation now. They don't want to do it.
I'm gonna just check in for a moment, because we have 3 questions.
Okay.
I would love to see that we can still address them. Maybe you can also read along. They're in the chat. So 2 of them are questions, and I think the last one is more of a clarifying question. From Archana, I see, how do local communities look at ejidos? Do they look at it positively or negatively? And are there ways to use ejidos towards creating more energy sovereignty at the local level against wind corporations, Pemex? And then afterwards, I would love to do the other 2 questions, and we can do around 10 minutes or something. So just kind of indicating before we take a little break, and then we'll come back for some breakout session. Would you be able to speak to that?
Okay, I didn't understand if it was now or after the break. Okay, yeah, about the second, I think it's complicated. It's about that. Here in Yucatan, it's really curious because for some communities, the ejidos are like something difficult because a ejido doesn't includes all the community, and there is some like gap between who have the ejidal position and the people who just live in the community. So sometimes the ejido is agree to some projects that the rest of the people doesn't agree, and they can't say anything. Or if someone want land to use, if you are not ejidatario, you cannot have that land. Yeah, you need to have the land from your father, have this the ejidatario position from your father. And also the women are almost not taken account in the ejidos. So it's complicated. And for me it was really strange. For me, it was really strange to came here to Yucatan and to know how the people is always complaining. Well, not always, but a lot of times they are complaining about how the ejidatarios, they just don't take them account. So we have some, well, with this organization I'm working with, sometimes there is like a sector of the community who wants to talk about, well, this situation, about about power energy generation, and maybe can be useful for us or something. But if the ejido doesn't want to know about that, the conversation just stops. So in some ways it's good because it's like a lock, you know, for them to have to save the lands. The ejido is that lock that is difficult. Still now, it's difficult to break. But in some situation, it's not so good because they doesn't include the rest of the people and the rest of the people interest. It's not all the cases. There are cases where the ejidos really work with the community. Or in the bienes comunales, the other kind of social possession, in Oaxaca, there are lots of communities, mostly in the mountains, where the community is the same as the bienes comunales. So they have assemblies where everyone can take part, and they can decide all together how to use the land. So it's really different in every context. It's complex. Yeah.
In the chat, the Araceli, I don't know if I pronounce it well, also contributes.
Yeah.
Communal property does have a background in pre-Hispanic times. Mexico is a strange case in which land has managed somehow unlimited to be kept in the hands of indigenous peoples. Unlike other places in the Americas, APIIDTT, ejidos is a structure half managed by the state and half by the communal people. Thank you for also helping to clarify. And we have a question from Max, who says, thank you, Marina and Chihiro. So far, this is very interesting conversation. I am curious, are there projects in the region or other places where there is good collaboration, always looking for the positive learning between modern solutions, forces, and indigenous communities and knowledge? What would be a good example? And what are requirements or conditions for it to succeed? Such easy questions you get. In other words, collaboration without colonizing. How do we do it? So that would be a good question to dig into before the little break. Please, Marina.
Well, here in Mexico, I don't have, at least I don't know any case of like this. No, there's there's different kind of situation of communities and organizations that are trying to use themselves the technology to create this different kind of relation with this model of energy. But until now, I don't know, but I think that any of them is like enough, like big enough, and also there is no laws to support this. No, the laws. There was just a few months ago this new proposal of law about energy in Mexico, and it was the same that it is at now. They have this point that if your land is have like good a good situation to generate energy, to generate power, the state have the right to take your lands. So how can we have a good collaboration with that? It's really complicated. If you don't have like if they are not respecting your autonomy and autonomy, you have like a community to take decisions about what is happening in your land, and they can say, oh, you have good potential to fossil fuel or to photovoltaic energy. So there is a project now. This new government, they are not too much about private. They are more like for national projects, but are the same logic. They are trying to take the land without, well, they are now doing some kind of consultations, but they are more like circus.
Check boxes.
Yeah, just to say, well, we are taking you account and we are asking you, so you are giving us like a blessing because we are bringing development to you. So it's difficult. I think that's why I think the solution must come from the ground, and the solution is that we can, if we can be able to have this relation, not invasive relation with energy, with power, in a way that we can decide what kind of power we want to produce, how much of energy, how many lands we want to take for this, or and who is using that power. I think that's crucial, because for us in the Isthmus, well, we know that they are using the renewable energy for mining. That's insane. So
Yeah, I have to bust that bubble. But that's a lot of breaking down logics and laws and political power, and that's all tied up with the energy transition. I'm gonna let us think through this. We also got another interesting questions just posted in the chat, but let us take that 5-minute break to really honor our digestion of all these things raised. So we're going to play another song. Earlier we were listening to Mare, which is also a Mexican hip hop artist. Maybe you want to say something about it, and we'll play another song for the 5-minute break. Would you like to say anything about Mare?
About Mare? Yeah, that, well, I really recommend you to listen to her. She's amazing. She's indigenous also women from Oaxaca, from my state. She's a Zapotec, and she's like doing all this hip hop from the women and from the hip hop about how it's been an indigenous woman in a city like Oaxaca, like breaking all these stereotypes about how you must to be, you know, like an indigenous woman. I don't know. It's amazing. I love her. I hope you love her too.
Cool. I will put another link in the chat of a song by her, I think. And let's have a 5-minute break. So we'll be back in 5 minutes and we can play the song meanwhile.
Okay.
Nací mujer en los tiempos del cáncer de mama, cuando el machismo mató muchas hermanas, cuando fueron perseguidas como brujas las lesbianas, entre abortos clandestinos y de trata de personas. Una entre tantas, de tantas y tan pocas, de las que como yo han sufrido las derrotas. Siempre tan igual y tan diferente a mis otras, y si somos mayoría es solo en las cifras rojas. ¿Y tú qué esperas para contar tu verdad? La vida se va extinguiendo en medio de la oscuridad. De rodillas, maquillamos en tonos rosas nuestras heridas, sin respeto ni dignidad en nuestras vidas. Por eso es que nuestra lucha aún no termina. ¿Y tú qué esperas para contar tu verdad? La vida se va extinguiendo en medio de la oscuridad. ¿Y tú qué esperas para dejar de esperar? Hazlo por ti, por nosotras. Avanza ya. El respeto cuesta, pero decidí cambiar toda esa mierda y ahora solo pregunto, ¿y tú qué esperas? Yo no quiero esperar ni por mí, ni por las mías, ni ser una más a las que derriban. Hoy alzo la voz contra toda esa mentira y te invito, mujer, a poner el puño arriba. ¿Y tú qué esperas para contar tu verdad? La vida se va extinguiendo en medio de la oscuridad. ¿Y tú qué esperas?
I hope everyone had a chance to stretch. I hope everybody had a chance to take a sip of a drink or go to the bathroom. And I am welcoming you all back or making your way back. Yes, we're rejoining. Welcome back to the second part. So we will talk a little bit more about a question raised in the chat, which will invite us to think about imagining this energy sovereignty that is indigenous-led process. And even though we have all these obstacles, both political, force, to think beyond that, and really liking to hear the thoughts of Marina here. So the question is, thanks a million for this insightful exchange. Maybe for after the break, could you say a bit about what communitarian ways management of energy is or should look like. Also, if time allows, with radical democratic role would be necessary, which radical democratic role would be necessary or appropriate for local and higher governments to take in order to build and protect indigenous-led energy sovereignty. So it's a big question. Let's see what we can unpack in this session. And then after answering this question, we will go into breakout rooms to talk a little bit about solidarity and solidarity practices. And we'll come back. You'll have 10 minutes just to talk to each other, and we will hear from each other, and we'll talk a little bit about solidarity for the last bit. Would you please be able to say something about your imagination of how an indigenous-led energy sovereignty could look like?
Yeah, well, we are starting to talk about this because not just us in the isthmus, like different movements around Mexico, because it's so much necessary to start to talk about how we want to be this. If we are trying to change it, how we are trying to change all the things. I don't know. I think in the first place is about the relation between the indigenous communities, but the indigenous communities who have struggles, you know, not just like the indigenous community, like this fantasy thing. I don't know, like the communities that are struggling for their lands, for their rights. So the relation between these indigenous communities and the government is really bad, because until now the government have been just in the part of the ones who are trying to put things, to grab lands, to grab the resources, grab everything, and making the communities to be just a picture, you know, because a picture can't speak out, a picture can't say anything. So they want us dancing for the tourism, but not dancing in our own lands and in our parties and for our beliefs. If that relation doesn't change, it's really difficult, because that's how also well, just in the power, in the energy power topic, they cannot imagine that the communities can make projects for their own. It's like they are always we are always look from above, like that we just can take. Yeah, we are just there to take what they are going to offer to us, not to build from ourselves. So
maybe can I because you mentioned earlier we needed bottom up, and bottom up can look many different ways, but I think the question of the group or the people are like trying to just fathom like what an example could look like, because it's so hard, you know, we're all swimming in this capitalist sea, this colonial laws, this colonial everything, to imagine what we're working for. It would be very interesting to see. I definitely learned a lot from being in Mexico, just around organizers also from the Congreso Nacional Indígena, the Indigenous Congress, that are so much in lifelong struggle, that you get a sense of a different way of being and a different way of decision making. And it would be very nice if you could say something about this, maybe less about energy sovereignty, but like, how does this bottom up decision making work when you make decisions for the community about, you know, your own sovereignty, basically?
Well, I think we have some examples about that here. Well, one of them is the Zapatistas. I think all the CNI, the Congreso Nacional Indígena, we try to look in them like lights. It's not that we want to be like them, but they give us lights about how we can take these decisions, how we can involve everyone and everyone vision about what we want to build for the future. So, and also there are these autonomy communities in Michoacán, Cherán, Ostula. For them it's a little bit, well, now I think is how it probably was for the Zapatistas 20 years ago. They are like in this direct confrontation against the government and telling them, no, you just bring violence to our lands, so we don't want you anymore. But that situation, we don't, the rest of the communities in Mexico, we don't have that situation in every place. You know, the context is really important. And so we are trying to like, I don't know, like take some spaces where we can to build a little bit more, to bring strength to some communities that most need it, maybe with small things, I don't know, with community health. Now with the COVID, we try to strengthen the community health, the community knowledge between women, because there are also in those places where the colonialism it was so hard that they make us think that the only way, there is one way to heal. So, well, we are not saying that that way to heal is wrong, but maybe if we again we start to see what are the different ways, and to talk with other women who are healers, and to know that those things are exist until now. You know, that's what about we talk about the alternativas vivas, the life alternatives. The alternative is us, and it's not a new thing. It's not like you must to imagine something new or totally different. It's something that already exists, and I think that the CNI and the organizations that are around the CNI, that's what we think, that we must to strengthen that alternatives, and well, because that is what eso es lo que nos ha hecho vivir por 500 años, no? That's what make us be alive for 500 years. It's not something easy to say. It brings a lot of things around. So yeah, I think that's about that's how we saw sovereignty. It's not to be a rock. You know, a rock is just there and nothing make anything. I don't know. It must to be to be like water. I don't know. The water always remember where it comes
It
from.
flowed.
Yeah, and where it flows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've given us a beautiful image there to go into the breakout rooms. So the idea of the breakout rooms of all the decolonial learning sessions is that not everybody speaks in the space where there's a speaker, but it's nice to at least meet 1, 2, 3 other participants, say hi, and maybe just share a little bit about what this session made you think of. The idea is to talk a little bit about solidarity practices, about bridging from one space to the other, from one community to the other, with a similar mission to get justice and sovereignty and dignity in life in this climate justice struggle. So I will ask Jess to put us into different rooms, and feel free to just see what is alive for you at this moment and to share with other participants. It's going to be 10 minutes, and then we'll join for closing together with sharing some thoughts. Nice chat with each other. Got to know each other a little bit and talked about solidarity. So we're going to end this session with posing some questions also to Marina about solidarity practices, because we've heard a lot about what's going on the ground in particular in the Istmo in Mexico. So I'd love to ask you if you can reflect a little bit about what kind of solidarity needs or questions or practices you can speak to that you wish to see more of or that work well. Would you be able to speak to that?
Well, I really think that that this kind of spaces are really useful, like to now the how we was talking with Edo, no, the technology is really helping to bring information that probably before it was really difficult to have access, no? to know what is happening in some far place. For us, it had been really important when people from Europe or who are living in Europe or who are living in the countries that are having investments in the projects that are bringing
colonial capitalists. Just come back.
Well, when they speak there in their places, in their countries, and when they try to take attention about what is happening, it's really important, and it had been useful. Well, in the case of PGGM is one of them. Sometimes it's too big, like in Canada, and the mining, the are too many interests there, and the government just doesn't want to know about that because it's very obvious what the minings are doing in Mexico and Latin America, in APIIDTT, no? But to talk about it in those other territories is important still, and also, well, I have the privilege, to have Wi-Fi connection and to speak a little bit of English and things like that, no? So I can be here, but for the rest of the people in my own organization, in the Assembly, I'm the only one who can do these things, but still to know that there is people who is interested to hear about what is happening even if they are like trying to found ways, different ways to get closer to the situation. I don't know if I can explain myself about this, but I just want to say that the international solidarity is essential for the local movements, to know that there is people in other places so far from you, where you are, that can feel the same about what is happening to you and to your community. It really gives you like strength, you know, makes you feel strong.
I really admire that also about you. You are so able to combine these different practices of really doing community work at the root of bottom-up coalition work. And then I see you in Canada, and then I see you 800 kilometers away from home, and you're able to work on all these different levels of building relationships towards that life of dignity and this mutual liberation work. I want to close with bringing to everybody's attention that right now there's a Zapatista group going through Europe, and they will be expected in the Netherlands to host a delegation. I think they're in France right now. So it's a great opportunity to also build relationship, understanding, up close and personal. Can you say something about your perspective on, like what you hope for coalition building in this sense?
Well, we are really excited about it. Because was a really crazy suggestion from the Zapatista movement when they say like, oh, we are going to Europe and we are invading Europe now. So I was telling Chihiro that the CNI, the Congreso Nacional Indígena, is also sending like a group of people from different movements that are part of the CNI. They are also going to be with the Zapatistas doing this journal. And we hope to, well, there's a lot of work that it's been doing right now inside the CNI, like to put together like the information we have, like to say in each country, oh, these are the corporations that are doing this and this and this to this part of our territory. So we are hoping like to bring light to this, like to bring attention about what is happening with the investments from the different countries. But it's not just that. We also want to hear about you, hear about what is happening in those corners and in those places that they look so different from us, but we know that they have like the same beat in their hearts, you know. So we know that you are building things and you are trying to change things in your own reality. So I think the journal that the Zapatistas and the CNI are doing is also for that, like to bring this together, that there are fightings that are alive and they are hay luchas que se están viviendo just now, you know?
Yeah, very alive struggles.
Yeah, alive struggles. And it's not just struggles, there are also alive alternatives, you know? And we kind of found these kind of alternatives in every place, in every corner of the world. Always that some people want to believe in dignity. I think that's the first thing
I think that's a beautiful note to end on. I want to bring to everybody's attention that you're also involved with a coalition, Futuros Indígenas. So that might be a very small action point to check that out. I'm sharing it now in the chat, the Facebook. There's also an Instagram and other platforms, but it's hosting different struggles, different cultural work, and it's a beautiful way to learn a little bit more. Of course, as every decolonial learning session, we will be posting this on YouTube, so it will be available for other people to watch afterwards. And we will send all participants a sheet with extra links of things to read, things to watch, and deep dive in our learning, our lifelong learning together. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank our speaker. I want to thank Jess for doing technical support. And of course, we hope to see you again soon with our next decolonial learning session.